Welcome to the Muscle Building Mastery podcast, where guys that want to build muscle come to learn how to do it properly. We understand that there's more to building muscle than mindlessly throwing weights around and chugging mass gainer shakes. We're not interested in quick fixes or anabolic assistance. We're interested in mastering the art, science and skill set required to stack on real muscle and strength. My name's Andy Clements, and for the last 12 years I've devoted my life to figuring out how guys like us who don't have amazing genetics, don't have 5 hours a day to spend in the gym, and don't want to take steroids as a shortcut can build insane amounts of muscle and strength in weeks and months, not years and decades. This podcast is the result of all the lessons I've learned along the way, and it will give you the blueprint to building more muscle in less time. To get you started, head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week workout plan. Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Andy Clements back here with another episode of the Muscle Building Mastery podcast, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this question of, do we actually need to eat every 2 hours or something like that, or 16 times a day or whatever, to build muscle mass? Because this is something that a lot of people seem to be confused about, and it was including me as well. I'm going to get to that in a second, but if anything I say to you intrigues you, or you want to know some more, or you want to get some help with your training and your nutrition in general, then I encourage you to head to trainingmastery.net/join, because there we have the Training Mastery video course, which is going to teach you how to fix and build your training, no matter if you're a beginner or slightly more advanced, from the ground up. So you can train for an amazing physique, and we've also got a lot of nutrition stuff in there as well, and supplement guides and exercise databases and just all sorts of stuff. And it's literally less than a single personal training session. It's 37 English pounds, which is not very many more American dollars. I don't know how many it is, but you can do the conversion if you want. But yeah, that is my little plug for the day, because it's the most amazing thing in the entire world, and you need to check it out. trainingmastery.net/join is the URL for that. So what I want to talk to you about is this: do you need to eat every 2 hours to build muscle? That's the question of the day, right? So there's a belief in the fitness industry, and I was subject to this belief for a very long time, that you need to eat very, very frequently to build muscle, like these bodybuilders do, like these fitness fanatic people do, and like we all think we need to do. We need to eat every 2 hours. Oh God, looks like there's an alarm on my phone. I've got to eat, every 2 hours, something like that, right? I used to subscribe to this belief. I used to eat like this for a very long time. We're talking about years rather than months here. I used to eat like this. I used to be constantly worrying about the next meal. I used to be food prepping until late at night, early hours of the morning, sometimes food prepping, making sure I was getting all my food ready for work the next day so I didn't miss a meal. Getting in trouble off my boss at my job because I was doing more eating than actually working. It was crazy. Like I used to just like run my entire life around this eating. This every 2 hours thing. Like I didn't have anything else going in my life because my food schedule dictated that I had to eat every 2 hours. So I've been there, I've done it, and I've experienced this, and what I can tell you from a logistical standpoint is it is not sustainable, and it's definitely not enjoyable. But here's the thought process why I did it, and why a lot of people still do it. A lot of people still peddle this stuff, is that it spikes muscle protein synthesis. And muscle protein synthesis basically just means like you've got a certain level in your body called, how well you synthesize protein into your muscles. And there's a police car over the road. I'm just getting a bit distracted. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway. Yeah, so there's a level of muscle protein synthesis in your body. And when you go above this baseline, right, this kind of homeostasis baseline, and you ingest protein above a certain amount, I think it's like 30 or 40 grams, it depends on the person, then you go into muscle protein synthesis, and we call that being anabolic. They call that the growth state. And when you dip below that baseline of muscle protein synthesis, you go into muscle protein breakdown, and you go into a catabolic state. And that essentially just means you're either building muscle or you're breaking down muscle. And the thought process is that after a few hours, you go past the threshold for muscle protein synthesis after you've eaten a meal, and then you start to drop down a little bit as well, and you go into muscle protein breakdown. You want to stay anabolic for as long as possible, and that's the whole thought process behind it, right? And it kind of makes sense logically. So that's what I did. I was eating every 2 hours and all that stuff. But what this thought process fails to take into account is so many other variables about the human body, about recovery, about training, about pretty much all the different stuff, right, that goes into building muscle rather than just muscle protein synthesis, okay? Now, what I realised after a certain amount of time of doing this is I did some more research, I did some messing about and experimenting with different methods of doing things. And I realised that actually you don't need to eat 16 times a day, right? Or every 2 hours or anything stupid like that. You don't need to do this stuff, right? Because your body will absorb all of the protein you give it over a given day. And there is a lot more variables that matter more than muscle protein synthesis, okay? Now, we're going to go through those. We've got sort of 5 very basic things to go through in a second here. But I just want to drill that point home for a second. Like, you don't need to eat every 2 hours. You really, really don't need to eat every 2 hours in order to build muscle. Like, I'll tell you what I do in a minute now, because I definitely don't eat every 2 hours anymore, and I can't imagine going back to that. But just, if you don't, without even thinking about the whole, is it better or worse from a building muscle standpoint for a second here? Like, who has the time to get up at 6 in the morning and eat like 8 meals a day until they go to bed at night? Who has the time to do that? And let's talk about the digestive system for a minute here. The digestive system is definitely not set up to handle a constant influx of food from wake until sleep. It's not set up to handle that way. We did not evolve having a constant influx of food from wake until sleep, right? Now you might think, how the hell's evolution got to do with this? But evolution's got to do with everything, right? Because if we want to make changes to our physical body, we must understand how our physical body evolved, right? So stay with me here, because this is important, right? So our physical body evolved to eat in smaller windows, right? And eat bigger meals. That's how we evolved, right? Now, what I'm not saying is our ancestors were all jacked. I'm not saying they were all shredded, but they were definitely a lot healthier. They were definitely a lot more robust, right? So I'm not saying let's all eat the exact same food in the exact same way as people did 100,000 years ago. But what I'm also not saying is let's go completely the other way and eat little tiny meals every 2 hours, because that's retarded, right? So you don't need to do that. So here's what you do need to do. Here's what you do need to replace it with. The most important things. Now we know that whatever protein you eat over a given day, the body will absorb. Okay, regardless of muscle protein synthesis or not, the body will absorb it. The most important things you need to do nutritionally to build muscle. Number 1 is a calorie surplus. Now, you've probably heard this before. A calorie surplus means that you eat and you consume more food, more energy from calories, from food, than you expend and you burn off through your exercise and through your metabolism. Does that make sense? So therefore you will gain weight, right? Because you've taken in more energy than you're burning off. And anything that takes in more energy than it burns off gets bigger. It gains weight, sorry. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to be in a consistent calorie surplus. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be in a calorie surplus of 1,000 or 2,000 or anything stupid. You just need to eat everything in sight. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm saying is be in a small calorie surplus of maybe a couple of 100 calories a day, and make sure that you're putting on, a pound a week, maybe, if that's what you want to do, if you want to build muscle. And, the reverse is true as well. If you want to lose fat, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And everybody's heard that. Everybody kind of knows this by now, right? But that's the most important thing, and you cannot get around that. And now the calorie surplus will change because your body will adapt to the new set point. If you're in a calorie surplus of a couple of 100 calories, so let's say your metabolic set point's 2,000 or whatever, and you're eating 2,200 calories a day, then, you'll start gaining weight. But eventually your body will catch up to that, and your body will sort of reset its metabolic set point to that higher weight. And you'll stop gaining weight after a certain point. And then you probably need to increase the calories a little bit more if you want to carry on gaining weight, right? So that's how you just mess about with the calories there. But you have to track it, or you have to at least be aware of it. And you have to be consistent with it. Does this make sense? So a calorie surplus is the most important thing. That's why I'm saying it first, okay? Now, the rest of it's not necessarily in order, but I wanted to mention that first because that's the most important thing. Now, the second thing they've got here, in terms of the most important things that you need to be doing nutritionally in order to build muscle, is timing your food intelligently around your workouts. Okay? So timing the food that you're eating, timing the nutrients that you take in. Now, I've done many different podcasts and many different YouTube videos around pre and post workout nutrition, but I'll give you a quick recap of this here. Okay? So the pre-workout nutrition, in the 90 minutes before you train, you're going to want a small meal that's going to fuel your workout without keeping too much blood or energy in the digestive system. So you want it relatively fast digesting, but you want it to tick all the right boxes so that your performance in the gym is as good as possible, because your results, the amount of muscle you're able to build is determined on how well you can perform on a consistent basis. How much strength can you build in the gym? How well can you perform? That determines how much muscle you will build. So what you need to do with your nutrition is set your nutrition up in such a way that you give yourself the best possible chance of performing in the best possible way every time you get in the gym. So that means that you're going to need a serving of protein, because it's not a meal if you don't have a serving of protein in there, because muscle protein synthesis is still a thing. We just don't want to go obsessive with it. So we spike muscle protein synthesis and we get in that anabolic state, right? And that's the main part of the meal. Okay, so that wants to be a fast digesting form of protein. So that could be something like white fish that's not got too much fat in it. It could be something like maybe a small amount of chicken breast, or white meat like turkey or something like that. Could be a tin of tuna, could be a tin of sardines, could be something like that that's not too heavy, not too stodgy sort of thing, right? Okay. And then you want to make sure there's enough salt on there, because sodium is one of the most important minerals on the planet. And if you're not salting your meals, you're missing a massive trick in terms of performance, in terms of health, in terms of longevity, in terms of everything. Sodium, good quality sodium. I use Redmond real salt, no affiliation, but they're just the best salt on the planet in my opinion. But that's commercially available anyway. This kind of sodium is going to really, really help you in the gym, because we're constantly losing sodium out of our muscles and out of our skin through sweat, through water vapor out the breath, through when we go to the toilet, when we, all the different things that we do. We're losing sodium all the time, so we need to replenish that sodium and make sure that we're fully stocked up before we go in the gym. That's going to help with your strength. Potassium is another thing. So, once you've put salt on your pre-workout meal, glass of coconut water or something like that is going to help with the potassium. That's another electrolyte and mineral that's going to help your cells to be hydrated and ready to contract muscle hard and build strength in the gym. And if you want to add something else like a short chain fatty acid or medium chain triglyceride fatty acid, then coconut oil is another addition I sometimes like to add, because it's a quicker digesting fat than most of the other fats, like nuts and stuff like that. It's more quickly digesting. Okay, you want to avoid carbs in that meal, because what you don't want to do is spike and crash blood sugar levels and make yourself feel sleepy by spiking and crashing the blood sugar levels, overly elevating serotonin and things like that. So you want to avoid carbohydrates in that meal. Now, for the post-workout meal, that's when you can stock up on carbs and have, a bit quicker digesting carbs, like sugary carbs. Like sometimes I'll have a bowl of cereal with a protein shake in it instead of milk, and stuff like that, and that'll be my post-workout meal. So that's the timings around the workouts, right? Now, the rest of the rest of the day's worth of food, it's another conversation. I don't want to take hours on this podcast. I want to give you some short, snappy information like we normally do that will help you to have better workouts, build more muscle, set up your diet better, that sort of stuff. But timings around the workouts of your food is important, and I think I go into more depth and detail on other podcasts. So scroll down the Muscle Building Mastery list and have a little look at some of the other podcasts if you want some more information. Number 3, the third most important thing in terms of nutrition for building muscle is giving yourself a fasting window every day. Okay, now this is counterintuitive. This is not talked about in the muscle building world, but it should be, okay? Because the muscle building world is all about eat more, right? And that has its place, because like I said, you need a calorie surplus to be able to build muscle. But nobody talks about fasting. And fasting is important, because in order to build muscle, you need to eat food. And in order to eat food, So after you've eaten the food, it needs to be digested properly and it needs to be absorbed properly. Does that make sense? So there's no point in eating thousands and thousands of calories every single day if you're not digesting and absorbing and assimilating those nutrients into cells, because it's not just about what you eat. It's about what you can digest, what you can absorb, and what you can assimilate into your cells to be able to lay that down as new muscle tissue and grow the muscle tissue that you've got. Is this making sense? I hope so. So, fasting window is important. So what I'm talking about when I say a fasting window is not eating late into the night and ridiculously early in the morning. Eating and try and keep your eating window. The maximum I will ever have as an eating window is 12 hours. So I have at least a 12-hour fast. So, I can do a 12-hour eating window and a 12-hour fast overnight to allow my gut and my digestive system to heal and give it a break from that constant barrage of food that that's being thrown at it all day long, all day, every day. Because I'm trying to build muscle, I'm throwing food down my throat. And I've done it before, I've eaten late into the night and early into the morning, and I had like 2 hours, or not 2 hours, but like 6 or 7 hours worth of a gap, and I've known people before that have woke up in the middle of the night and started chugging protein shakes down to try and keep that anabolism up and stuff like that, and it's just daft, let your digestive system heal. Let your sleep do what it needs to do to heal your digestive system so that when you wake up tomorrow, you can absorb and assimilate the nutrients you're taking into your cells to assist with your recovery, to assist with the growth of your muscle, which is the reason you're doing this stuff in the first place, right? So don't just smash food late into the night. The maximum I will ever allow myself or one of my clients to eat is 12 hours each way. And if you can shorten that window a little bit and get it down to 8 or 10 hours, that's even better, because you're giving yourself, 14 to 16 hours every single day. Obviously, that's overnight as well, but you're giving yourself that time to allow the digestive system to heal and be prepared better to break down the food you're going to eat the next day. Okay, so that's my high horse for fasting with the gut healing and absorption of food and stuff like that. So number 4, the fourth thing I want to talk about in terms of the most important things for setting up your nutrition for muscle building is enjoyment. Now, this is, again, not something anybody ever talks about for nutrition with muscle building or fat loss or anything like that. They just say, eat these foods, eat these times, blah, 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 and just like shout and scream and try and tell you what to do. But what I'm saying is find something that you enjoy. Find foods that you enjoy. Now, I'm not necessarily saying go eat pro-inflammatory foods and go eat like ridiculous, overly inflammatory stuff that's going to cause problems in your body and in your digestive system. But equally, don't eat foods that you hate. Don't sit down and force feed, dry chicken and broccoli down your throat if you'd rather smash your head against a brick wall than eat another chicken and broccoli meal. Find something you enjoy more. Like I don't eat chicken breast anymore because I eat so much chicken breast when I first started training. I'd rather, like I say, smash my head against a brick wall or, rub sandpaper where you don't want to rub sandpaper. I'll try. It's not in the question. Okay. So if I eat chicken thigh because chicken thigh is way nicer and it's actually probably a little bit more nutritious. It's got a higher fat content, all that stuff, right? So I eat stuff I enjoy, that's the point, right? But it's not, it's a balance between, it's not just Domino's and Ben & Jerry's and stuff. It's stuff that I enjoy. Now, there's a reason behind this, right? It's not just, I'm feeling sorry for you, eat something you enjoy. There's a physiological reason behind this. Now, the reason is that leading on from what we just talked about a second ago, right? Which was, there's no point in eating food if you're not going to digest it. There's no point eating food if it's not going to be digested, absorbed into the blood, assimilated into cells, and laid down as a way to recover and grow muscle. There's no point, it's just you're just passing food through yourself for the sake of eating it, right? If we're coming from a muscle building standpoint. So, if we're coming from a muscle building standpoint, from digestion, we need to be able to give ourselves the best possible chance of digesting this food to the maximum extent, so it causes the least amount of damage to the digestive system, and all of the food, or as much of the food as possible, actually gets absorbed and assimilated in cells. So that means we need to be able to digest the food properly. Now, if you're eating a food that you do not like, then you are not going to send the signals from the brain to the digestive system, to the mouth and to the stomach and to the gut that food is on its way, because you're not excited about it. You're not looking forward to it. You don't want to eat it, right? You're probably not even that hungry if you're eating every 2 hours, So digestion begins in the brain. So if you are eating a food that you enjoy, then you can smell it, you can look at it, you can take it in with your eyes, and you know that food's on its way, and you're getting excited to eat it, right? And then the brain then sends the signal down to the mouth, and the mouth then will start to produce saliva from the saliva glands, and the saliva glands have enzymes in them. The saliva has enzymes in it in the mouth that will help to break down the food in the mouth, okay? So that's going to upregulate the amount of saliva produced, so that when you start eating that food's going to be better broken down before it even hits the bottom part of the digestive system into the stomach and into the intestines, right? So that's going to start the process of breaking down the food straight away. Now, what you're also going to do is when you're enjoying the meal that you're eating, you're looking at the food and you're preparing to eat it, is the gastric acid in the stomach, the hydrochloric acid and the different kinds of acids in the stomach are going to upregulate, so that when the food does hit the stomach, there's going to be more acid there to break it down, so that the food's not going to be as clumped up. It's going to be broken down, and then when the food's broken down, it's less likely to cause damage to the gut lining and cause inflammation. It's more likely to be absorbed and assimilated into cells, and we end up with a greater level of recovery and more muscle, which is what we're doing this for in the first place. Okay. So pick something you enjoy. Don't eat foods that you do not like all the time. Every now and again's okay, but don't force feed yourself cat food just because you think it's going to get you hench. Just eat stuff that you like for digestibility, if nothing else. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to talk about, and then I'm going to wrap this up. And the last thing, the most important thing, I've got written down here. And, this list isn't exhaustive, by the way. There's lots of other stuff for digestion. I just want to give you guys a bit of an idea what to focus on, and stop focusing on eating every 2 hours because it's bullshit. The last thing I want you to focus on is adherence, And this kind of leads on again from enjoyment. Like, do something you can stick to, man. Stan Efferding is the guy that says, from the Vertical Diet, he's the guy that says compliance is the science. Compliance is the science, If you can't stick to it, it's not worth doing. Because the best diet in the world isn't worth the paper it's written on if you are unable to stick to it. So build out a diet that you enjoy. Build out a diet that you can do on your busiest day, on your quietest day, on your happiest day, on your saddest day, on your most elated day, on your most depressed day, on anything in between. Build out a diet that you can stick to. Because otherwise it's worthless. Because, if it's a good day and you stick to your diet, great. But then as soon as a bad day comes around, or a day that's not as ideal, whatever that looks like, then you're not going to stick to it, right? And then it's not worth anything. So build out a diet that works for all the days that you can do it for. Or at least have a backup plan diet, Have something that you can fall back to that still works, but, you can actually stick to it. So again, all the stuff that goes into that is another podcast on its own, but it's something to think about. Compliance is the science, like Stan Efferding says, okay? He's someone to check out, by the way, as well as my stuff, trainingmastery.net/join, by the way. So Stan Efferding is definitely somebody to check out if you're interested in nutrition stuff. He's a cool guy, and his diet is called the Vertical Diet. Now, that is the most important things to focus on. Now, going back to me, and back to bringing this full circle about the 2 hours a day thing, eating every 2 hours thing. I no longer eat every 2 hours, right? And that's pretty obvious from the way I've been speaking in this podcast. I now eat probably 3 or 4 meals a day, depending on my schedule, depending on my training and what time I'm training and how hard I'm training and whether it's a deload week or what's going on, But normally, on most days, I'll eat 3 or 4 meals a day. 4 meals a day is my sweet spot. That's when I know I'm not too hungry and I'm getting all my food in, and I don't have to eat massive meals to get all my calories in for that day and stuff like that. And, that normally works out at eating every 3 or 4 hours, and then I'm able to have a decent fasting window overnight as well. But again, it all depends on my schedule. I don't beat myself up if I don't quite hit it and stuff like that. But if I can eat 3 or 4 meals a day, which I do the vast majority of days, and eat every 3 to 4 hours, which I do the vast majority of days, then I know that I can look and feel my best ever, which I do right now. I feel like I look and I feel my best ever that I ever have felt since I started training, and I'm the strongest I've ever been, And I'm not the heaviest I've ever been. I'm not the heaviest, but I'm definitely the strongest, which tells you that I'm definitely increasing strength because, I'm probably 20 pounds lighter than my heaviest ever weight, and I'm probably 5 or 10% stronger than I was before, and this is coming from a natural. So, this is interesting stuff when you start looking beyond eating frequently, and you start looking at actually, the how health mixes into this whole equation, how looking after your digestive system mixes into this whole equation, and start broadening your focus a little bit from reps and sets and chicken and broccoli and rice. Then you can actually start seeing how stuff that traditional muscle building and bodybuilders don't focus on can massively help muscle building and bodybuilding. So that's pretty much my mishmash of a podcast for today. I hope that made sense. I hope that was valuable to you. If it was, let me know. Take a screenshot of this podcast and post it on Instagram and tag me at AndyClements01. I'd really appreciate any feedback like that. I'll obviously repost anybody who does that. That'd be awesome. And obviously if you've got any questions, get in touch, message me on Instagram, send me an email, go on my website, do what you want, but use this information, guys. This is the most important thing for me, is you guys use this information. This is like episode 60 something, 63, 62, I don't know, something like that. So there's a lot, we've given out a lot of free information here, and I want you guys to use this. I've had a lot of messages already telling me, this is cool stuff, and I really, really appreciate everybody that's reached out and told me that they're finding value in this information. That's the most important thing to me, is that you use this information and get results with it. Now, if you want some more stuff like that, like I said, trainingmastery.net/join is where you can find the Training Mastery course for the lowest ever price, which it won't be forever, but I'm keeping it there for now. It's £37. Which is less than a single personal training session with me. For less than an hour of my time, you can get this pretty much my life's work, which is a video course all about how to train effectively, efficiently, with accuracy, with intensity, from the ground up, even if you've never trained before. But even if you have trained before, and you've been training for a couple of years, you can still get insane value out of that. And like I say, there's some information in there about nutrition, there's information in there about sleep, there's information in there about supplements. We've pretty much got all bases covered, and it's less than 40 quid. So go to trainingmastery.net/join, and you can pick that up today before the price goes up. Hopefully that was useful, guys, and I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast. If you're ready to stop wasting time in the gym and start mastering the skill of muscle building, go check out www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week muscle building workout plan. I have specifically formulated this workout plan to take you through the 3 stages of mastering your body, layering on a more advanced training methodology each week as you progress. That means that regardless of where you are with your training right now, this plan will push you forward and help you stack on more muscle and strength in just 6 weeks. So head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net now to grab your free 6-week workout plan.